Question 1 on the superpower relations question is a 4-mark question, and it'll ask you to look at source A, and the question we phrased as either something along the lines of source A is critical of, so there's a negative view of something, or it supports, there's a positive view. You're asked to explain how you know this, bringing in your own knowledge. So this is on the right hand side of the screen as some ways that they could phrase that question, some previous examples before. So it could be a Cold War event, like reducing tension between USSR and USA, or it could be a flashpoint like the Berlin Wall, or it could be an individual like Stalin, or it could be a superpower like the USSR. It will always ask you, how do you know? And you've got to analyse the source and bring in your own knowledge. Now, as always, this is a 4-mark question, 5 minutes, 1 paragraph, about 10 lines. That's all we're aiming to write here. So here's an example of a source, and the question here is, source A is critical of the US involvement in Europe. How do you know? So have a look at this picture, and then we'll start to analyse it. Okay, so the first step is going to be just planning very quickly. The first thing I'd always do is read the question carefully and highlight the key words, as you can see I've done here. Is it to support, or is it critical? Now, in the exam, it's easy to get this mixed up or get this wrong and just drop a lot of easy marks. Make sure you highlight what the event is as well, so you can focus on that. Next, just make sure you're looking at source A. There's 3 sources, A, B, and C. Again, you can get mixed up, write about the wrong thing. It means no marks. It's an easy mistake to make. Now, those checks will only take you about 10 seconds, so just make sure you're doing them. Next step with the planning is I'm going to annotate the source on the sheet. Again, I would always recommend you are making notes, highlighting on the sheet. They shouldn't really be coming back clean at all. And I'd be thinking here, as always with these sources, what's the message? What is this source trying to say, and how does it back up the viewpoint of the question? So here, how does this back up a critical view of the US? Well, there's a few things we've got here. The fact that we have got a dollar is used to represent the US, the idea of dollar imperialism, what the USSR called the USA for trying to spread a lot of money around Western Europe with Marshall aid, trying to control that term imperialism in there, trying to control other countries. And then the fact we've got a globe and it's being consumed, that indicates taking control of the rest of the world. And if you look, you can see Europe on that globe, you can see Africa, Asia, but not the USA. So when we start with writing, as always, the first thing is to focus on that question. What's the message? What's the theme? And here I'd start off focused on that question. I know that source A is critical of the US involvement, as it is clearly showing America as being aggressive and wanted to take over Europe as well as other parts of the world. Then I need to develop this answer. How do I know this? How can I prove this? What's the source shown me? Give a description of what you can see if it's a picture. If it's a written source, give us short quotes. So here, within the image, I can see a dollar coin representing US finances in Europe. I can also see a globe with Europe and Asia on to suggest these were areas the US wanted to dominate. And then finally, I need to bring in my own knowledge here to support this. Sentences such as, using my own knowledge, I know that. And I'm not looking to bring a lot in here, at most 3 to 4 lines of relevant information that supports this viewpoint. So I've just started off again, that clear sentence structure from my own knowledge. I know that the USSR were angry about the USA getting involved in European affairs and giving them money to recover in order to stay capitalist. This made it far harder for the USSR to turn these countries communist. The USA said they were helping their allies, but the USSR called this dollar imperialism. And you can see I've not written a huge amount there about Marshall aid, but it's precise. I've shown some good knowledge there as well that's relevant. And then if we've got time, the final thing I like to do is to link back just to make it really clear to my examiner I've understood the question. Nice simple sentence structure. Overall, source A is critical of the USA, as it shows how they were using money to control the world. So, just to recap what this answer looked like, I'd start off with my theme. What's the message of the source here? I then say how I know that to prove it. I then bring in some of my knowledge, and then I'd link back. And you can see here, I've not written too much at all. It's about 10 lines or so, and it's about 5 minutes worth of writing. So we can use some other examples here with pictures. I've got one here that's supportive of the US involvement in Europe. How do you know? It's not very clear in the video, but you have got there the rope says Marshall Plan on it. The person represents Europe, and the idea is that the rope is Marshall Plan. It's rescuing Europe from falling down into ruins with some USSR style backgrounds in the background there. We've got another one here. How do we know that this source is negative of John F. Kennedy's early presidency? So we have got here Kennedy in a meeting with Khrushchev. We can see the poster on the wall, the boy wonder, hinting at Kennedy's young age. Remember, he was in his early 40s. Against a grand mass of some of his political experience like Khrushchev. And we can see that Kennedy's got some books there, Chess in 100 Days, trying to influence the idea that Kennedy maybe didn't know much about politics compared to Khrushchev. And we can link them with our historical knowledge. When they met in Vienna to discuss issues such as Berlin, Khrushchev basically pushed Kennedy around and made demands because he saw JFK as being inexperienced. What about negative of the relationship between China and USSR in the 1960s? How do we know this? We can see we've got Khrushchev and we've got Chairman Mao there. We've got them attacking each other with their symbols. Khrushchev with the hammer to represent workers, Chairman Mao with the scythe to represent farmers. How do we know this with our own knowledge? Well, at this time, the USSR and China were starting to fall apart from being allies. They both had different views on communism, and this led to détente later on, with the USA taking advantage of this. Both the USSR and China split up with alliance, and so both wanted to start to work with the USA and make new deals. So, you will be given a source. It could be a picture, it could be writing. We'll ask you, is it critical or does it support? Just a few final thoughts on this one. First of all, do not leave this question blank. At the very least, describe what you're seeing, what the person is saying, what the general message is to try to get some marks. On the other hand, don't write too much. It's only a 4-mark question. And as always, you can always go back and add more if you want to. Don't use information from the source as your own knowledge. So if a source is a written source and it's got some precise own knowledge, don't copy that and say it's your own. Bring facts from outside the exam. Your examiner knows what the source says and shows. They're looking for you to bring in knowledge from outside. And just those 10 seconds at the start, just double check what the question wants. Critical or supports? What's the event focus? Have you definitely got source A?